Just understand how powerful commercials are. And now, an Air Jordan campaign for 20 years devoted to one human. It's created a Teflon shield around Michael. That's why I call it mythology. It's as if he never missed a shot.
But what the media doesn't want you to know about Michael Jordan could fill a damn library.
You didn't need this documentary to know that Jordan was an all-time great on the court. This is ridiculous.
When discussing Michael Jeffrey Jordan's career, there's tons of false narratives, myths, and downright lies. And looking at Jordan in the 80s, what I'm always told is that Jordan at this point, he was selfish, only a scorer, not a great passer, he couldn't carry a team, and he was nothing without Scottie Pippen.
You serious, Clark?
And looking at MJ in 1989, during the regular season, this guy's all-around game, offensively, combined with the defense, never been better. As Jordan this year, 32.5 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, both career highs, on nearly 54% shooting. And of course, Jordan this year, first in scoring, third in steals, and 10th in assists. If you look at players in NBA history to have a 38-8 season, that list is exclusive. Of course, you have Jordan, also the Big O, Luka Doncic, and of course, Russell Westbrook. And looking at those three guys, Luka, Russ, and Oscar, they're kind of held in high regard as great all-around offensive players, do-it-all offensive players, when of course Jordan gets kind of pigeonholed and stereotyped as only a great scorer. And going one step further with MJ, being a great all-around offensive player, as well as a great passer. The final 24 games of the 89 season MJ officially was given the point guard duties, as of course Sam Vincent, sent to the bench, got a lot of DNPs, and was really kind of discarded. Now Jordan at the point, absolutely phenomenal. 30.4 points per game, 10.7 dimes, nearly 10 boards on 50% shooting. MJ in 24 games at the point, 7 straight triple-doubles, including 10 in 12 games. If you put prime MJ at the point, what you're going to get is a production of something like Russell Westbrook in 2017. But of course MJ, the far superior defender, and much more efficient.
It's Nance against Sellers. Out front to Valentine. Ball stolen by Jordan. Jordan drives to the other end. Wham! With a right
play, the Detroit Pistons. Bend away on the drive. The block.
A lot of pressure on the guy. Jordan steals the inbound pass. Off to the races. Blocked by Jordan!
And kind of going right in line with that Russell Westbrook comparison, MJ 89 supporting cast, much like Russ in 2017, didn't have much help, especially offensively. And looking at Scottie Pippen, his best offensive teammate, Pip at this point a full-time starter and was improving drastically compared to his rookie season. Was he an all-star, a superstar, even a really great player? Not at this point, but he was improving. Now looking at Jordan's second best player from 88, that of course was Charles Oakley, who was only 24 years old. But the Bulls, they traded Oakley to New York for Bill Cartwright. Now, Bill Cartwright at this point, he was a backup center to Patrick Ewing the entire 88 season, averaged like 11 points per game, was kind of a washed-up has-been, not a great player. The Bulls trading Oakley before he entered his prime, the guy was Jordan's best friend, his enforcer, really his right-hand man. That was kind of a shock to the Bulls, and especially MJ. And getting back Bill Cartwright, Cartwright at this point, his nickname was Medical Bill.
No. No. Ow.
And looking at Jordan's supporting cast offensively, compare the entire NBA. Pippen this year scoring-wise ranked 76 in the NBA at 14.4 points per game. Of course behind Jordan, the second leading scorer on the Bulls. If you look at all 16 playoff teams at 89, only one of the teams didn't have multiple players top 75 in scoring. And that team, of course, was MJ's Bulls. Now, speaking of teams with multiple top 75 scorers, the Cleveland Cavaliers had their fair share. And of course, 89, one of the premier teams in the Eastern Conference, as they nearly cracked 60 wins. And on the season, first in net rating, second defensive rating, third in opponents' points per game, and at home, only lost 4 games. The Cavs this year, a total of 3 All-Stars. Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, Larry Nance, but also Ron Harper, a solid 17 points per game, and debatably their best wing scorer. This Cavaliers team 89, they were heavily favored to beat the Bulls and avenge their loss from 88. And this Cavs team at that point, they were being dubbed the team of the 90s.
Sparking the Cavs with his inspired play, Nance is thinking NBA championship. And with his soft touch and dynamic athleticism, there may be nothing that can stand in his way.
To Nance, he drives, wham, with a right hand.
This is what I'm in the league for. This is what I've been playing for. And I think this team right here is a team that I can do it on. And whether it's this year, next year, or whenever, I think this is the team that can do it, and it would mean, you know, the whole thing to me.
When you said it, I meant everybody was calling us the team of the 90s.
We beat Chicago 6 times that year. And I tell people all the time that at least that one particular, you know, that season, you know, we were the better team, but come playoff time, Chicago had the better player.
So Mark Price right there summed it up pretty well. The '89 Cavaliers compared to the Bulls, the much better team. Offensively, defensively, they had better coaching, more depth, more shooting, really better everything. But the Bulls, they had the one X factor, and that of course was Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And looking at Jordan Game 1 versus Cleveland in Cleveland, a place they lost only 4 times all year, MJ the first half jumped out quick with 22 points in the Bulls, a double-digit lead. And for the majority of the third quarter and fourth quarter, it was an 8 to 10 point deficit the entire time. And when Cleveland made a minor run, Jordan immediately shut that door with a dagger jump shot.
Inside a minute to play. Jordan against Elo. Jordan goes to the line, 15-footer, and there's the old final nail in the coffin.
Now, that Game 1 victory in a 5-game series, that's vital, a huge win, especially on Cleveland's home floor. But here's the catch. Mark Price in Game 1 did not play. He was out and hurt. Now, Game 2, Mark Price would come back and play, and the Cavaliers look much better. Mark Price's individual game wasn't great, 5-18 shooting, but him being on the floor, his presence alone, elevated the entire Cavaliers team. And someone like Ron Harper showed up big, as in the first half, a whopping 22 points while playing great defense on MJ. Now, MJ the second half, especially the fourth quarter, took on more of a scoring role, a score-first role, and tried to lead a comeback. But the Bulls' offense, if Jordan wasn't cooking, they were just really anemic. So in kind of an inverse to Game 1, Ron Harper took on the MJ role, and Jordan more of a passive facilitator, and the fourth quarter couldn't will Chicago back to make it a ball game. So series tied 1-1, heading back to Chicago. And looking at Jordan at this point, outside that first half in Game 1, very much a facilitator and being a pass-first player. And Game 3, pretty much the exact same thing. And the Bulls in the first half had a whopping 22-point lead. Now, like many Bulls games in the past, this lead shrank minute by minute, quarter by quarter, to eventually in the fourth quarter, it was a ball game.
To go, the Cavs have a foul to give. Jordan on the drive, and the big basket, he'll go to the line for a...
Harper doing an excellent job early on, but Michael starting to take control. But not a good three-point shooting team without Price. No one else is a threat from there.
Stolen! Jordan, it's going to be big!
Doing it all, offensively, defensively, shaking in the paint, and delivering that.
The way this game has gone tonight.
If you were Red Auerbach, you wouldn't light up yet.
Not yet,
nope.
you bet.
Not yet. Tonight, I'm to select the MVP of the game, and it's easy.
As he didn't get the shot, Cleveland had the ball, threw it full length, and he broke up the...
MJ in Game 3 versus the Cavaliers not only closed it down the stretch, but for the entire game was fantastic on both ends, as he had 44 points, 10 dimes, and 5 steals. In the entirety of NBA history, only one other player has accomplished that feat, and of course, that's Russell Westbrook. And looking at Game 4 in Chicago, the Cavaliers faced elimination. This is the most hard-fought game of the series up to this point. And the first quarter, second quarter, even the third quarter, Bulls up by 2 points here, 4 points there. It was really back and forth, but Chicago had the lead the entire time. Now the fourth quarter, Cleveland went on a 15-6 run, took a lead, and Chicago was down by 4 points with under 5 minutes left. Now MJ, just like in Game 3, kinda went into hero mode, trying to pull off a miracle. And out of the Bulls' next 11 points, MJ had 9 of the 11. And late in the fourth quarter, once again headed to the line for some big-time free throws.
Up by 1.
Got to knock both of these in.
There's one. Missed it. Sanders will inbounds it. Gets it into Harper, to Price. Price over to Daugherty. Daugherty runs into from the line in this series coming in.
Biggest free throw of his career right now.
And he hit it. Go. This might be for the season. Michael puts it up. No! Overtime.
Now, MJ right there not only missed free throws, but missed the game-winning jump shot. And in OT, I mean, the Bulls, they were absolutely blown off the Cavaliers, a massive comeback and win. And looking at Jordan's play in the fourth quarter and OT, while he had good overall numbers, it really wasn't typical MJ, dominant MJ in the clutch moments. And if you want to talk late game free throw shooting, Jordan at this point in his career was fantastic in those spots. Go back to 86 versus Celtics. 2 big free throws with zeros on the clock. Even 88 versus Cleveland the previous year, MJ at the line iced the series and won the series for Chicago. And before we look at Game 5 in Cleveland, staying on Game 4 very quickly, MJ in this game, 50 points, 4 assists, 3 steals on 50% shooting. If you're just stat watching looking at the box score, MJ this game can't be blamed in the slightest for the Bulls' loss. But of course, if you watch the game Jordan in the fourth quarter OT, the biggest moments, he simply came up short. What's my overall point? You can have gaudy stat numbers and still have a bad game. Game 4 versus Cleveland, MJ stat-wise, fantastic. Jordan's overall game, how he closed the game, far from perfect. Now, the one upside to MJ not coming through in Game 4 was we got Game 5 in Cleveland. And of course this game, it's iconic, historic, one of the best games in NBA history. In the first half of this Game 5 in Cleveland, the Cavaliers had the lead from the first quarter all the way to halftime. MJ in the first half, being much more facilitator or passer, a willing passer. Now the second half MJ cranked that scoring level up pretty quickly, as in the second half at one point had 18 of the Bulls 23 points. The second half of Game 5 Jordan, offensively, he wasn't getting much help from his teammates. But Jordan this fourth quarter, he avenged all his mistakes in Game 4. As in this quarter, 17 points, 1 dime, 7 of 10 shooting.
Every possession. There's the clear out. Elo guarding Jordan. Double teamed by Rollins. 8 on the shot clock. Jordan now funneled to the middle, and Scottie Pippen fires a 3 and hits in 1 second. 2-point lead for Chicago, 97-95. Harper leaves it for Elo, goes for 3 and 98-97 lead. That's his second 3-point hoop in the last minute and a half. Cross defended by Harper. 11 seconds to go. In the middle of the floor. Jordan has it. And Jordan puts up a jumper and hits with 6 seconds to go. An answer by Daugherty. Elo will inbound. He gets it into Nance, gets the ball back, drives to the hoop, and lays it in with 3 seconds to go. Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go, puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago.
So that sequence from Jordan right there made all the right plays, all the right choices, and because of that, won Chicago the game. And that shot over Elo, why it's so important, so unique, it is the only true do-or-die shot in NBA history. As this was Game 5, no tomorrow, the Bulls down by 1, it was a buzzer beater. He makes it, they win, they lose, it's over. That is the only shot in NBA history that has that unique distinction and that much weight on that basket. Pretty important to note. Also, one thing I do want to note, what did Jordan do with the game on the line? He passed it to Scottie Pippen. That is the first big Pippen-Jordan moment, their connection being on full display. And Jordan right there trusting his teammates, showing once again he's not a ball hog.
I would say that MJ's deficiency, and nobody ever wants to talk about it, we torched Kobe for his selfish plays because we watched it firsthand all at the same time, and there was social media. So we could say, yo, he shot over 5 people.
On the shot clock, Jordan now funneled to the middle, and Scottie Pippen fires a 3 and hits.
We don't say that for Michael Jordan because we don't see all of the game footage right away. But that's a deficiency to me, that he won't make the right play at certain.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
If you ask me personally, Jordan, the perfect clutch time player with a perfect blend of being unselfish, but also being a killer and a go-getter. Now, looking past Jordan's Game 5 heroics, his great fourth quarter play, clutch time play, Jordan the entire series averaged respectable 39.8 points per game, 1 point shy of averaging 40. Looking at all of NBA playoff history, the series versus Cleveland, it ranks 10th all time for the highest points per game in a playoff series. And of course, Jordan on this list featured numerous times. Now that 39.8 average is of course very impressive. But looking at Jordan post Game 2, Games 3 through 5, that's when Jordan truly became a score-first player and hyper-aggressive. As looking at those games, 46.0 points, nearly 7 dimes, 6 boards, 3 steals on again above 50% shooting. Jordan in Game 3 had 44. Game 4, 50, and in Game 5, dropped 44 yet again. And look, don't get me wrong, Jordan Game 1 and 2 had 30-point double-doubles via assist. Jordan in those games still played very, very well, but Game 3 through 5 took it from an A+ game to an A++ game.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And going one step further very quickly, Jordan in those games, the second half alone, Game 3, 30 points, Game 4, 31, and Game 5 again dropped 30. That is MJ in 3 straight playoff games, scoring 30 or more in the second half. That in league history, the longest streak ever. And compared to his entire Bulls team as supporting cast, Jordan's Game 3 through 5 the second half, 91 points. The Bulls, only 72. To put this into perspective, looking at all of playoff history at 30-point halves, whether it be first half or second half, Jordan in the Cavs series alone would rank 3rd all-time for the most 30-point halves. And of course, all these games came consecutively.
Damn.
And looking at Jordan for the entire series, for second half scoring, he averaged 22.8 points per game versus Cleveland 89. That for a single playoff series all-time ranks 2nd behind Kobe in 01 at 23.0 points per game. And I mean, look at that list right there. Premier playoff players out of the last 25 years. Guys like Durant, LeBron, a Giannis, and of course, a Kobe Bryant. But out of that entire list, who's featured 4 times? The GOAT! MJ versus the Cavaliers in the 80s, facing superior teams, being the underdog, not the favorite, not having home court advantage, killed this team time and time again. As looking at both first round series, 88 and 89, Jordan versus Cleveland, 42.5 points per game, 7 dimes, 6 boards, only 3 steals, on 54% shooting. Jordan versus Cavaliers team not once shot under 45% in a single game, and his lowest scoring game was 30 points. If you said Michael Jordan versus the Cavaliers 88-89, that was his entire playoff career, his resume, only 10 games. Jordan still ranked 2nd all time in 50-point games, only behind Wilt Chamberlain.
Outrageous.
When fans nowadays say a player owns a team, owns a franchise, yes, some guys have immense success versus one team. But there's not a single player in league history who not only dominated a franchise, but decimated and destroyed them like MJ versus the Cavaliers. Now, looking ahead to the second round of Chicago this time, they'll be matched up against the New York Knicks, led by Patrick Ewing, as well as Mark Jackson. And this Knicks team, unlike the 90s Knicks, they weren't purely defensive. Offensively, their ranks actually higher than their defensive ranks. And of course, looking at their roster, Mark Jackson, all-star player, Pat Ewing, all-star, finished 4th in MVP voting. Of course, you had Oakley, the Bulls' 2nd best player in 88. You had Johnny Newman, a great 3-and-D player, as well as Joe Wilkins, one of the OG Jordan stoppers. And look, this Knicks team defensive strategy in the half court, I mean, it was pretty simple and in line with all the other teams. Be physical, show him bodies, and at the rim, contest all of his shots. Now, where the Knicks differed, they actually ran a full court trap and a full court press, which for the NBA nowadays, even back then, was virtually unheard of.
Individually, I'm going to have to deny him the ball as much as possible and just keep him off balance. I think without changing defenses, presses, and half-court defenses, it will basically keep him out of the middle as much as possible. But it's a very, very hard task in stopping a Michael Jordan, almost impossible.
And the main goal of this trap and why they press so much, of course, drain Jordan's energy, but also make him a passer. And Jordan in Game 1 versus the trap, from the opening tip, he broke them time and time again.
Into the corners for Hodges. The Knicks are going to play that type of basketball the way that they had their success during the regular season. They're going to do a lot of trapping, and they're going to be doing a lot of three-point shooting. This time, Jordan with the...
They give the ball to Michael Jordan. They spread the court all open. they say, Michael, find someone. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's dribbling around. The Knicks have to double team Michael, or he goes to the basket and scores. So when they double team him, he's finding guys to hit three-pointers.
As a point guard, were you surprised when they moved him to the point position, and how do you assess his performance?
Well, it's tough. You know, when they put Michael Jordan at point, you knew what was going to happen. They was going to spread the floor. You have to double team him, and he's finding everyone. And now the Bulls believe that they can make three-pointers.
So that right there, Jordan making the right plays, making the right reads, and just picking the press apart play by play. Now, why this press kind of worked in essence is because Jordan had an 18-minute stretch where he didn't make a single field goal.
Say that again?
So that right there was MJ in the first 3 quarters, kind of picking his spots, being very selective. Now in the fourth quarter, Jordan turned it up a notch, scored 8 points in the final 8 minutes, and brought the Bulls back to force OT. And looking at the scoreboard, the game was tied 109 to 109. Jordan from that point on would score 7 of the Bulls' next 9 points, and the Knicks wouldn't score for the rest of the quarter.
Shot clock for the Bulls. Jordan from the corner. He won't miss that one. Recycle the shot clock. Jordan sees an opening in the lane. The reverse will fall.
That says it all, Bob. The guy is amazing.
And still has this game for Chicago. Grant's the only real big open court guy, but Paxson's got trouble. To Jordan. To the hole. Michael Jordan.
Looking at Jordan in the fourth quarter and overtime, I mean, this dude just flipped the switch just like that. In those 2 quarters, 17 points, 2 assists, phenomenal shooting, and perfect from the line. When it came down to Jordan time, money time, MJ time and time again would step up just like this. And beating New York at home, that was a monumental deal. As the Knicks at this point were an impressive 35-6 on their home floor, the 3rd best mark of the season. And of course, the 2nd straight series, the Bulls pulled off a massive Game 1 upset. Ow! Now looking at Game 2 in the Garden, much like Game 2 versus Cleveland, the Knicks would bounce back in a big way. And Jordan the first half, I mean, he was playing well, not fantastic, had 10 points. But like the first half of Game 1, kind of forced to be a passer, not a score-first player. And the Knicks, time and time again, picking him up full court, trapping him at half court, just showing him bodies and double teams every single play, every single possession.
A quick 9-point lead by New York. They're able to hold on. What did they do so well in the first part of the game?
Well, what they did was to trap, rotate real well against the Chicago Bulls. They really covered people. Right here, you see the cover, they cut the middle off. Right here, again, someone beat someone, they cut the middle off, and again, they make them take a tough shot.
Watching Game 1 and Game 2 versus the Knicks, it's fairly obvious New York, they don't care about anyone else on the court except Jordan when it comes to offense. I mean, the Knicks' treatment of Cartwright, Pippen, Grant, even someone like Craig Hodges, it's dismissive. Their entire focus is on Michael Jordan. And in Game 2, Jordan, he managed only 15 points. Why that's notable is that MJ in his playoff career, that is the lowest of his entire career. And leading up to this matchup, hadn't scored less than 30 in a single ball game. So the Knicks at this point, I guess, kind of feeling themselves a big win, and in essence, shut down Jordan. Now, the Knicks' big-time mistake actually came from Mark Jackson, their star point guard, late in the fourth quarter, kind of mocking MJ, stuck out his tongue. Something for MJ he would not take lightly.
When you get to this point in the playoffs, motivation is a major ingredient. And this morning, Doug Collins was taking no chances with Michael Jordan. He showed him a piece of tape from Thursday night's game, a game in which Jordan struggled. Mark Jackson made a steal, and when he came back down, stuck his tongue out, a la Michael Jordan. He was mimicking him. He said, you shouldn't do that to Michael Jordan.
What possessed you to do that man's signature move?
Oh, man, just young and dumb. I had a moment, man.
I had a moment?
I had a moment.
Did you realize who that was?
Yes, but I thought we had every answer because we were rolling. Mistake. Huge mistake.
Against the Portland Trailblazers, and he was on the court and brought him back from a big deficit to win. Jordan, basket counts. Just marvel at this pass. Of course, the foul trouble with the 2 Bulls won't mean anything the way this score is going. 40 points, a career-high playoff, 15 rebounds, 9 assists, 6 steals.
MJ in the first half of Game 3 versus the Knicks, he came out blazing on fire. The first half, 23 points, 6 dimes, Chicago up by 20. MJ in the first half for the first time, really all series, was aggressive from the jump, looking for a shot, and looking to score first and foremost. And look, for the Knicks defense, I mean, they're still playing hard, still trapping, giving Jordan all he can deal with. And watching some of these traps, I mean, it's exhausting watching it 40 years later. MJ, the primary ball handler, scorer, passer, and their lead on the defensive end.
Personal foul. Ball stripped away by Oakley. Will save his tape. The Knicks today, their lack of offense from the small forward position, which has served them so well. Get into Ewing. Working on Corzine as it's stripped away by Jordan. This afternoon, Wilkins shooting over Jordan. Jordan gets a piece of it. The Knicks ran away from Chicago in Game 2. Mark Jackson loses the ball momentarily. We'll have a jump ball.
The burden Jordan was carrying at this point, I mean, it was massive. And the most notable thing from Game 3 wasn't Jordan's 40 points, 15 boards, or even his 6 steals. The most notable thing in this game is that Jordan, in the second half, actually got hurt, aggravating a groin injury he dealt with all season.
And the trainers and the security people were getting him downstairs very quickly. He aggravated his groin. He kept an ice pack on it when he came out of the ball game until the end of the game. They were helping him up, and he was limping badly. They say it's just an aggravated groin muscle, but they want to get him downstairs and look at it as quickly as possible. Dick?
Oh, no! We suck again!
So Jordan heading to Game 4, of course, not 100% healthy, and really far from it. And to make matters worse, this Game 4 in Chicago, it was a back-to-back playoff game. Yes, you heard that right, the Bulls in '89 played a back-to-back playoff game, and Jordan, he played injured.
Now, the other bit of news, Michael Jordan will play. Now, how effective Jordan will be still remains the big question this afternoon. He re-injured a groin muscle in the second quarter yesterday and limped off the court after the game, playing a lot. Now, the question is, how will he be? Well, there was a big crowd around the entrance into Chicago Stadium when he arrived earlier today in a fancy fashion. Tim Brandt talked to him.
What's your condition, Michael? How do you feel?
I feel a lot better. I got treatment all day yesterday and all evening, and it's still sore. I know I'm gonna have to play with the sore, but I'm gonna play.
He was hurting a little bit yesterday, and this morning, of course, is still aching a little bit, but I think he'll do okay.
Has he always been able to withstand pain like this?
Always have. When he's really involved and wants to win and participate, he will go 150% above and more. He'll give whatever it takes.
Like Jordan's mom said right there, his ability to overcome injuries, sickness, or just really any obstacle, it's one of the rare things about Michael Jordan that separates him from a lot of the great athletes in American sports history. And this Game 4 versus the Knicks, MJ didn't just play hurt, he played phenomenal while being hurt. As in this game, had 47 points on nearly 70% shooting. And looking at the fourth quarter, if that wasn't impressive enough, MJ in the fourth quarter took over yet again, having 18 points, 2 assists, and only missing 1 field goal. And of course, those fourth quarter numbers, they are fantastic, but again, don't do Jordan justice. As looking at the fourth quarter, Chicago up by 2, 81-79. Jordan from that point on was score 18 the Bulls, next 24 points, outscoring New York by himself, 18-14. And of course, per usual, added in dagger shot after dagger shot.
They do an excellent job on him when he gets down inside of the lane area. Jordan. It counts. Here's a guy who says he won't shave until the Bulls are eliminated. You can't even tell that he high percentage foul shooters. 3 on the shot clock. Here's Jordan. Michael Jordan has scored 11 of the Bulls' last 13 points, including this one to give them a 10-point lead. 45 in the game for Jordan, who limped into Chicago Stadium.
This Game 4 from Jordan, I mean, it's stuff of a legend. And you can really argue Jordan at this point, the best game of his career in the postseason. Of course, given the circumstances, being up 2-1, being hurt, and of course, it being Mother's Day. And looking ahead to Game 5 back in the Garden, I mean, this game for the Bulls, they gave a valiant effort, but it was just too much to overcome. Jordan the first quarter, he was on fire. 12 points off the bat, playing fantastic. The Bulls at halftime, though, down by 3 points. The second half, it was not much better. The Knicks, a massive run to open the quarter, then in the fourth quarter, took about a 20-point lead. And Jordan in the fourth quarter, a valiant effort, had 17 points, the Bulls, won a pretty lengthy run. But the Knicks in the end pulled it out Patrick Ewing, having some big-time clutch plays.
had the ball. He had position.
Into Patrick in the paint.
Jordan for three. It was partially blocked. To Ewing.
So of course, Pat Ewing right there on the defensive end and offensive end came up big for the Knicks like a superstar should. And looking at Game 6 back in Chicago, for Jordan the Bull specifically, I mean, the biggest game in over a decade for the franchise, the biggest game of Jordan's career. And looking at this game in the first half, I mean, it was tight from the start. MJ the first half, 17 points, leading all scorers. The Knicks, a narrow 2-point lead. Now the third quarter, intensity ratcheted up about 5 notches. I mean, it got very, very chippy. Gerald Wilkins and Jordan kind of going at it, jawing. Brad Sellers and Oakley. But the worst of all was Scottie Pippen. Pippen in this game in the third quarter actually threw a punch at Kenny Skywalker. And of course, you throw a punch, automatic ejection.
Both of them throwing punches. They're both going to be ejected. They should be.
Pippen and Walker as Chuck defined for you right down in front of Chuck.
What the hell were you thinking?
Pippen 19 points and 4 rebounds. Kenny Walker, no points.
Now, luckily for Jordan and the Bulls at this point, they had a 7-point lead, a little bit of cushion. But the Knicks in the fourth quarter, ever so slowly would chip away the lead. To under 2 minutes left, it was tied, 103-103. And MJ from there on out was absolutely phenomenal in the clutch.
A good move with the left hand, so they basically neutralize each other.
It's in the hands of Jordan.
This is a guy you want to force him to give it up. You don't want him to get a wide open chance. Hoping that they'll come out with a 1 of 2 situation from the line with Jordan. He should come out of this at least with 1 of the 2.
He gets them both. Nothing but net.
We're spending a lot of time on my free throws.
The Bulls don't want to have the same problem and foul.
Jordan gets them both. Newman's wide open.
So stopping it right there, Jordan in the final minute and 30, from the line, a perfect 8 of 8. And think about this, if Jordan, like Game 4 versus Cleveland, misses one of those shots, the Bulls most likely lose the game and head back to New York without Scottie Pippen, who'd be suspended. MJ's free throws in the fourth quarter, they were crucial and vital to the Bulls, making their first East Finals in over a decade. And also one thing I do want to highlight, like Game 5 versus Cleveland, Jordan in the clutch made the right play, the winning play, kicking it out to John Paxson for an open jumper.
The reason that I feel LeBron is the GOAT is because during pressure times, he still makes the actual right decision.
Explain yourself.
When looking at 8-9 Jordan versus the Cavaliers and the Knicks, I mean, these two series, eerily similar. MJ hitting big-time game-winning shots at the line and from the field, but also making the correct reads and finding his teammates if they were open. Also, one parallel in both these series is that Jordan the first 2 games, had some nice games. But the second half of the series, Jordan took it up about 5 notches. And look at this Knicks series, after that 15-point dud in MSG, game 3 through 6, 41.3 points, nearly 10 boards, 9 assists, 3 steals on absurd shooting. I mean, that right there, that's all-time great offensive numbers, offensive production. But keep this in mind, MJ in this series was the focus of the entire Knicks defense, who was pressing, trapping every single game. And on top of that, who was MJ guarding? Mark Jackson, the opposing team's all-star point guard. And also versus Cleveland, who was MJ guarding? Ron Harper, their best wing scorer.
Court on the dribble of Harper. Harper on the left wing against Jordan. Stops, pivots, holds, turns.
And Jordan shaking, baking, fading away on that shot. Harper must apply the defense to him.
All of Chicago's turnovers, as a matter of fact. He got in the passing lane there.
When looking at both these series versus the Knicks and Cavaliers, I mean, Jordan in these series, the best scorer on the Bulls by a mile, their best passer, defender, and the fourth quarter, asked to really do everything. This 6-seed Bulls team making the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, it was a Cinderella run, led by Jordan, carried by Jordan. As looking at both those series, Jordan not once had a single teammate average above 15 points per game. To see how rare that is in NBA history, only 4 teams ever made the conference finals without a single teammate averaging above 15 points per game in either of the first 2 rounds. Those players being 89 Jordan, 98 Karl Malone, 99 Reggie Miller, and 09 LeBron James. And looking at those teams, their path to the conference finals, of course, offensive teammate help wasn't their strong suit, but the Bulls' path to the conference finals also extremely tough. Not only a 6th seed, but the underdog in both their first 2 round series. The 09 Cavs, 98 Jazz, and 99 Pacers can't say that. Also, one thing those teams can't say is that they face the bad boy Pistons, who at this point, they're one of the best teams of all time, and of course, the eventual champions. Detroit versus the Bulls at this point, a perfect 7-0 on the season, 9 straight wins versus Chicago. At home, 25 straight wins, and on the year, cracked 60. And look at their overall roster 1 through 8. I mean, as much talent as you could find in any all-time great team. Of course, Isaiah, Joe Dumars, also Mark Aguirre, Vinnie Johnson, Bill Laimbeer, and then Dennis Rodman off the bench. If that wasn't enough, Hall of Fame coach Chuck Daly, the eventual coach of the Dream Team. Heading into the East Finals versus Chicago-Detroit, I mean, their defensive prowess, it was at all-time great levels. And of course, the target of all this ire was indeed Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Dennis, your thoughts about Chicago, and I guess in the same breath you got to talk about Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, he is the key factor on that team. And you got to realize, if you want to stop Chicago, you got to stop Michael Jordan.
Because he's handling the ball at the top now, does it make it more difficult for you guys to defend him and to find ways to stop him?
Well, we had a scheme last year that we put together and tried it early this year, was successful. When he moved to the point, it changed. We became confused at trying to do it the other way. You've got to play him more straight up because there's not a lot of help, and it does make it a little bit more difficult for your defense.
So looking at Game 1 in Detroit, the Bulls, I mean, they came out on fire. Jordan in the first quarter, 14 points, just slicing the defense up. The Bulls in the first half, they had a 20-point lead, and by the end of the second quarter, it was still at 16. Now, fast forward to the fourth quarter, Detroit, like many Bulls teams do in the 80s, they blew this lead slowly but surely. And Jordan's play in the fourth quarter, while he wasn't all-time great fantastic, still had 10 points, was pretty serviceable. And of course, late in the game, some big-time free throws to hand Chicago a massive Game 1 victory.
30 points.
So that right there for the Bulls, a big-time Game 1 victory. And for the third straight round Chicago, an upset as the underdogs in a Game 1. And looking at those teams at home, Detroit, Cleveland, and New York, they had a combined record of 109-14 at home. And of course, the Bulls beat them all in Game 1 in consecutive series. And looking ahead to Game 2 in Detroit, I mean, it's hard to imagine this Pistons team would lose 2 straight at home. And in Game 2, the Bulls put up a very good fight, was close at halftime. In the third quarter, heading into the fourth quarter, they unraveled bit by bit.
Beer knocks it away. And now Laimbeer and Pippen start to have a go.
When this young Bulls team played the Pistons, it wasn't just a physical battle, but also a mental battle. And Chicago at this point as a team, they just didn't have the mental toughness, I guess the mental fortitude, to overcome their urge of fighting players and just getting in these brawls. It happened in 88 and also in Game 2 in 89. And as bad as the Bulls' unraveling was, the worst part of this game for Chicago was Pippen late in the ballgame, hurting his ankle, and leaving in the fourth quarter.
That will be perhaps a death blow to the Chicago Bulls' chances. There you see Scotty going off the court, limping on that foot.
That could be the big story of this night.
Now, the big story for the Chicago Bulls is their starting forward, Scottie Pippen, an important man. He has an injured foot, did not practice yesterday, but will start and play. For more on that, let's join our third partner, Pat O'Brien. Pat?
All right, Dick, thank you very much. In fact, the most talked about foot in Chicago, if not the history of the game this week, has been Scottie Pippen's. It started as an arch injury, which is right about here, but the last few days it's moved up into the toe area. Now, he told me just seconds ago that it still has a little bit of pain. He likens it to like a sprained toe or a stub toe, but he says he'll play. As Dick said, he will start. The question is, can he run on it? He hasn't really run on this thing. He didn't practice yesterday, so that's what they'll be watching. Dr. Horace Grant, who says he thinks he does indeed have the flu. He's very very weak, and he says he's kind of sick today. So we'll see how that goes. Let's go back to you.
So Pippen, of course, in Game 3, not really 100% healthy, a really bad ankle, and also Horace Grant had the flu. That's MJ's two best teammates offensively, and debatably defensively, under the weather, not healthy, just not 100%. And to compound how bad that was, Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright, and John Paxson all had 3 fouls by the mid-second quarter. MJ in the first half of Game 3, a pivotal Game 3, had 22 of the Bulls' 45 points, absolutely carrying them and keeping their head above water. And fast forward to the fourth quarter of the Pistons, that lead ballooned to a whopping 14 points. Now from that point on, the Pistons, they would score 11 points to close the game out. Jordan by himself would score 18, including numerous clutch baskets and eventually the game-winning shot.
Pistons led by as many as 14. Bulls cut it to 4. Jordan comes in. 9 on the clock. Jordan again. Under a minute now, and 9 on the shot clock. Jordan pumps and scores. How did he do that? Isaiah and Jordan. Who else should be in the middle of the center stage here?
Watch the high pick and roll.
There it is. Rodman is on him, one-on-one. 5 seconds to go. Jordan off the glass. Yes!
So that shot by Jordan right there, that's an iconic moment, an historic moment, and once again, another big-time game-winning shot in the 89 playoffs. And to add some very important context, Detroit's fourth quarter defense at this point, they were only allowing 20 points per game. At this point in league history, that was the lowest of all time. And MJ in the fourth quarter, the final 8 minutes, had 18 points. That's absolutely mind-boggling. And looking at Jordan's overall stats, of course, drop 46 was phenomenal, highly efficient. But the more important stuff, the context of this game, makes that 46 that much more impressive. As of course Pippen, he was hobbled, Grant was sick, and the entire team outside of Jordan was in foul trouble. Now, this 46-point game from Jordan is kind of a double-edged sword. As yes, Jordan, playing fantastic, an all-time great game. But Jordan this game was almost too great.
Are you doing anything special today with Jordan?
Yeah, we are playing him entirely different today. More double teams in different positions, and we're much more aggressive. That's why we have Rodman and Sally who can rotate, and we're getting some good double teams. I hope we can keep it up.
Their defense has been magnificent. They limited Chicago to only 13 points in the second quarter, and Michael Jordan, who did not score in the period, has gone 17 minutes without a point, and that is gigantic.
So you'll see how quickly Detroit will come for the double. They have the one man. Here comes Isaiah. They're forcing, but notice how Jordan takes his time and picks out the free man.
Game 4, Bulls vs. Pistons. It's one of the most physical games, intense games I've ever watched. And it's not just hard fouling, cheap shots, dirty plays. The Pistons defense, they're flying around, attached to Jordan everywhere he goes. And look at their defensive wings, defensive guards. Joe Dumars, I mean, him by himself, a premier defender. But off the bench, you have Dennis Rodman, who legit can guard 1 through 5. And think about this. If you get past Dumars, get past Rodman, who's behind that? Someone like Isaiah, John Sally, and at the rim, Bill Laimbeer or Rick Mahorn. The Pistons defense had not 1, not 2, but 3 lines of defense.
Pippen wide open for 3. They were on an 11-2 run, and now Detroit is on a 9-1.
See, they're groping for an offensive set that's...
What I like about Jordan, he's not forcing it, even though he's not had a lot of shots or points in this game.
And looking at Game 4 of the first quarter compared to the next 3 quarters, I mean, Jordan after the first quarter was stifled and shut down. The first 7 minutes, this guy, 9 points, 2 assists, 3 of 4 shooting. At that point, Jordan, I mean, it's typical Jordan, on pace for 40. But the second quarter, third quarter, and even the fourth quarter in a blowout, the Pistons stifled Jordan at every single turn. Like the 88 playoffs versus Detroit, the Bulls' big-time problem, if Jordan was locked down, getting double-teamed, triple-teamed, and his teammates weren't coming through, the offense would just stall out and not do anything. And after that first quarter, that's exactly what happened. Now, looking at Game 5 in Detroit, this game, definitively, one of the most bizarre Jordan games of his entire playoff career. And looking at just the 80s, the games we've covered, I'd say the worst game Jordan's ever had in the postseason. As looking at this game, Jordan took a measly 8 shots. Yes, you heard that right. Michael Jordan took 8 shots in a playoff game.
Want to be a little more specific? There's good and there's not good. This is not good.
And looking at MJ in the fourth quarter, we want to talk MJ's worst quarters of his career. This one tops the list by a mile. During the fourth quarter game 5 in Detroit, had a measly 1 point. 1 point and 1 shot attempt. And again, watching all these possessions, I mean, yes, Jordan technically making the right basketball play. But if you're a superstar player who can score 40, 50 points, at some point, you gotta be aggressive takeover and force it a little bit.
Jordan, Corzine, big. Jordan almost walked, but did not. Hodges for 3, and he got it.
They recognize where they are and what they need. He's got to shoot the ball.
Hodges for 3. Not a
action since the first period of play. 25, 20, 19, but they've got to shoot. Jordan.
They spot up Hodges for 3, and he gets it.
And also, one thing I do want to highlight, Detroit in this game 5 in the fourth quarter, the team that beat Chicago was all bench players. Isaiah, Lambeer, and Dumarsh most of the quarter, they were on the bench. What that shows about the Pistons, they weren't just 1 through 5, they were like 1 through 8, a solid 1 through 8. And someone like Vinnie Johnson, a non-All-Star, non-Hall of Famer, could win your game in the East Finals with Isaiah Thomas on the bench. That's how good Detroit was and how deep they were. So looking at Game 6 in Chicago, of course, face elimination of the Bulls, needed a big game from Jordan, couldn't be as passive, as kind of deferential as he was in Game 5 in Detroit. In Jordan's credit, bounced back in a big way, shot 26 times. Now, the problem in this game was in the first possession, as Scottie Pippen got hit in the face by Bill Lambeer.
In the center of your screen, he's going up, and then he takes the elbow as Lambeer comes down from that rebound. He catches him with the left elbow right in the face.
And Bill Lambeer right there, is that a dirty play? I mean, tough to really say looking back in hindsight. But of course, Pippen in this game got injured, would not return after 30 seconds of game time. And you gotta give Jordan some credit. After Pippen went down, it was a one-man show for about 5 straight minutes. And the Bulls had a 12-point lead with Jordan, having 12 points and 5 dimes.
Sellers forces the turnover to Jordan. Open court, 2-on-1. Here it is.
Well, Detroit will calm you down. They'll work their plays.
Steal. He kept it in bounds. Here it is again.
Oh! Yes!
Now that initial adrenaline boost, it would wear off very, very fast, as once Jordan headed to the bench at a lead, all but evaporated. And looking to the fourth quarter, Detroit, I mean, up by 10 points, a healthy margin. Jordan did his best to start the fourth quarter, but it simply wasn't enough. And looking at Jordan's overall play in this series, I mean, for really any superstar not named Jordan, this is a fantastic series. Nearly 30 points above 45% shooting, 6 dimes, and 6 boards. For your average superstar, even some all-time great legends, that's a phenomenal series. For 89 Jordan, it's simply not enough. And if you want to break this series down, first 3 games versus the last 3 games, pre-Jordan rules versus post-Jordan rules, I mean, the split is noticeable. During the first half, it's like typical 89 Jordan. The second half of the series, games 3 through 6, Jordan was a shell of himself.
He says intimidate and dominate, and then on the bottom in big capital letters it says follow the Jordan rules. And I said, what are the Jordan rules? They said simply, when he goes to the bathroom, we all go with him.
Now that Game 6 loss in Chicago, of course, a tough loss, a bitter way to end your season. But looking at Jordan's playoff run, one of the best runs of all time, and for Jordan's 9 championship years, definitively the best. As Jordan this run showcased the entire arsenal. Some games a 30-point triple-double, other games 40 points, 5 steals, and like versus the Cavs and Pistons, came through with big-time game-winning shots. I mean, when looking at Jordan's all-around offensive game this run, he was a solid 34-7-7. If you look through NBA history at 37-7 runs for a player to make it past the first round, here's your list. Oscar Robertson, Jordan, LeBron, and Jokic. Now, just like that list earlier, Oscar, LeBron, Jokic held in high regard as great all-around offensive players and great passers. which of course they are. So looking at Jordan being in that elite company, what does that tell us about him as an individual basketball player? What it tells me is that Jordan, his production, overall stats, it adapted to the team, the system, and the coach who was in place. Case in point, look at 85 versus the Bucks. That series, he ran point guard, averaged 9 dimes per game. Those two series versus Boston, 86-87, they told Jordan, be a score-first player, a go-getter. What did he do? Damn near average 40 points per game in both those series. 88 versus Cleveland and Detroit, they told Jordan, go score 40 and play phenomenal defense. And of course, did just that. Now 89, kind of the combination of all those series into one, as Jordan had to score 35-40 points for the Bulls to even be competitive in the first place, but also be the point guard, the tip of the spear on defense, guard Isaiah Thomas, Ron Harper, even a Mark Jackson, and also in the fourth quarter, take over, win these games for us in the clutch. Simply put, 89 Jordan was asked to do everything, and when given that task, that responsibility, he came through in a big-time way. And for a lot of the great point guards in NBA history, guys like Stockton, Jason Kidd, especially Magic, their main goal objective, not just to win the game, but make their teammates better. And looking at Jordan running the point, his biggest impact was in the Bulls' outside shooting. As of course, Jordan running the point, got all the attention, all the double teams, and guys like Paxson, Craig Hodges, even Scottie Pippen got wide open looks, especially from deep. And comparing the entire Bulls team with Jordan not at point guard versus at point guard, these stats are drastically different. 3-pointers taken with non-point guard MJ, only 6.4, compared to with a ridiculous 12.2. Also that percentage bumped up nearly 5%. And looking at someone like Craig Hodges, the Bulls' best shooter at the time, this dude benefited from Jordan at the point tremendously. As looking at Craig's numbers, without MJ at the point, 3.1 threes per game. With MJ at the point, 5.0. And look at that percentage, 36% non-point guard MJ, with MJ at point guard, 45.7. For Scottie Pippen, a very similar bump. Non-MJ point guard games, 0.9 threes per game at 23.1%. With MJ at the point, 2.5 per game, more than doubled, and the percentage at 38.3%. 89 Pippen, 89 Craig Hodges, they ranked first and second in total made threes for the entire postseason. And why is that? Because of Michael Jordan running the point. Now, when discussing passing and playmaking, being a great facilitator, of course the eye test is king, watching the games comes first and foremost. But for a lot of fans nowadays, even looking at games 30-40 years ago, the stats play a big part in how we judge these players. And looking at Jordan 89, assist numbers, they were great, fantastic. The thing is, they were actually better than recorded. For example, look at Game 5 versus Cleveland. Jordan, on record officially, had 6 dimes. Now, based off my count, actually had 7.
And he's standing still. Here's Cartwright again with a familiar shot. A lot of trouble getting that entry pass in, and Grant follows.
Playing 2 men now, Jordan and Cartwright.
Cartwright scored.
Jordan has not handled the ball coming up the floor that much.
Here's a 3-point attempt that has given up a lead to the Cavaliers. Porzingis hits Jordan, leaves it for Hodges. Jordan now funneled to the middle, and Scottie Pippen fires a 3.
The series versus the Knicks, nearly identical. Game 2 in the Garden, Jordan officially only had 3 assists, but according to me, he had 4.
Michael hooks it back out to Pippen. He'll try it from the same spot. 8:55 remaining in the game. Hodges trying to find. Still plenty of time. 7:20. Hodges tries a 3-point. Michael Jordan with 13 points tonight.
And last but not least, looking at the Detroit series, the exact same trend. Game 2 officially only had 4. But watching the games, Jordan very clearly had 6.
Jordan couldn't get a shot away. Nobody near.
See, he got 2 easy baskets inside. That'll do wonders for your outside shooting confidence.
Pippen. Grant. Cartwright from 8 and a Jordan. Great pass. Cartwright and a foul. Dumars 73. Jordan can't shoot it. Corzine from 18.
So looking at that right there, clear-cut proof Jordan was getting shortchanged on assists. And looking at the entire run, out of the 17 games, there were 7 games where Jordan didn't get the full credit for all the assists he had. And if you count the non-credited assists, Jordan's average bumps up from 7.6 to 8.1. And look, that discrepancy being 0.5, taking Jordan from 7.5 to 8.1, that's actually a pretty big deal, especially historically. If you debate basketball nowadays, I mean stats, they are king. Averaging 7 assists versus 8, 6 versus 7, 5 versus 4, nowadays fans make that a monumental deal. So Jordan being shortchanged on assists, in all reality, it is a big deal.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
And looking past Jordan's assist numbers, I want to debunk one big narrative about Jordan and his overall career. And that's that MJ couldn't carry a team or elevate players in the postseason. Looking at this run, Jordan definitively did both those things. As in the 89 playoffs, scored a ridiculous 591 points. All time, that ranks 33rd, which is not great. But here's the catch. The 32 players ahead of him, they played more games, and all those runs made the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan 89, the most points ever scored in a non-finals playoff run. That's pretty important. It is bittersweet, but also very, very important. And that big distinction, making the finals versus not making the finals, has a lot of sway and perception of how hard a player actually carries a team in the postseason. For example, guys like 01 Iverson, 07 LeBron James, they're held up as some of the greatest carry jobs of all time. But looking at 89 Jordan, I would argue personally, better than both those players in regards to carrying overall production in the conference he played in. As looking at those 3 runs, 01 Iverson, 07 LeBron James, 89 Jordan. In the Eastern Conference, Jordan was responsible for 49.9% of his team's total offense, that's points and assists. 01 Iverson, 47%, 07 LeBron James, almost 48%. Now looking at overall competition, Jordan's East opponents had a record of 172 and 74. That win percentage just south of 70%. Now the 07 Cavaliers couldn't crack 55%. The 01 Sixers, they did, but still far inferior to Michael Jordan in his competition in 1989 in the Eastern Conference. And here's the cherry on top. Michael Jordan's Bulls, they're dependent on him to do everything. And scoring-wise, if he didn't crack 30 points, they were losing. As looking at the Bulls in games Jordan didn't crack 30, they were 0-5. The 01 Sixers and Iverson didn't score 30, they were 4-4, not great. 07 Cavaliers actually in the positives, and they went 8-4. For a lot of these playoff runs historically, competition plays a big time role in how they get remembered. And looking at the 01 East, 07 East, those conferences compared to 89, they were far, far inferior. As looking at head-to-head record East versus West the last 41 years, the 89 East ranks first all-time for East win percentage at 59.6% versus the West. The 01 East versus the West, a win percentage of 38.3%, that ranked 39th. 07 East, a tad better, at 31st. And if you want to talk 60-win teams, Jordan's East had more of those. 55-win teams, Jordan's East, more of those. 50-win teams, also more of those. And here's the catch. Teams below 500, Jordan's had the least.
I'm writing this down. This is good stuff.
And one thing I do want to debunk very quickly, the idea Pippen saved Jordan, kind of carried him in any way, that's 100% false, especially looking at 1980s Pippen versus 1980s Jordan. And according to a fellow YouTuber, that being Self-Research NBA Facts, a very good channel, Michael Jordan 89, the closeout games, was damn near 40 points per game. Scottie Pippen could barely crack double digits. 89 Jordan debatably was the best player alive. Pippen wasn't Pippen yet. Horace wasn't Horace yet. Bill Cartwright, he was old. And Paxson and Hodges, they were just primarily shooters. For Jordan to take this Bulls team to the conference finals, guys who were glorified role players, that is highly, highly impressive given that year's Eastern Conference and how stacked it was. Now, also one thing I do want to hit on is Michael Jordan's outside jump shooting, specifically three-point shooting. Now, Jordan this playoff run took 2.1 per game, a total of 35. Out of those 35, he made 10 for a percentage of 28.6%, which of course is not great. But here's the thing, providing context to those shots, the majority of those shots, end of quarter shots, end of shot clock shots, and a lot of times half court heaves.
Seconds to go. Yes, yes, Jordan shot.
In it comes to Michael. Michael launches one, and
if you take away those heaves, which there were 6 of them, Jordan this run actually shot 10-29 from deep for a respectable 34.5%. Now, looking at the final part of the video, this is the culmination of everything from 89 Jordan, the stats, the context, all of it in one. Michael Jordan 89 playoffs had 6 straight games of 30 points or more that ranks 9th all time. He had 3 straight games of 40 points that ranks 6th, 13 30-point games, that's 9th all time, 7 40-point games, that's 3rd, 7 games of 30 points and assists, that actually ranks 1st all time, and 2 games of 40 and 10, which again ranks 1st all time. I mean, Jordan's historical dominance this year is highly, highly impressive. And you gotta keep remembering, Jordan did not make the NBA Finals, only played 17 games. If he had made the finals, advanced further, those numbers could have been even better and more historic. Now, speaking of historic, we have Jordan's second half scoring. Like I showed you guys numerous times, Jordan the first half majority of games was a pass first player. Now the second half, he was a score first player. And looking at his average, it's 19.1. In all of NBA history and playoff runs of at least 10 games, that ranks 2nd all time, only behind Kevin Durant, who with the Nets did not make the conference finals. Now looking at fourth quarter scoring, Jordan's production also fantastic. As looking at this list, he comes in top 3 all time at 10.5 points per game and ranks 1st overall for runs that made the conference finals. And still looking at fourth quarter scoring for a single series all time, the highest marks ever. Jordan on this list appears 3 times, and 89 Jordan comes in 8th all time at 12.5 versus the Knicks. All those stats right there, second half figures, fourth quarter scoring, those stats till now have never been known. And once again, Jordan's numbers, now that they're kind of unearthed, brought to light, this guy looks even better. When discussing 89 Jordan, he really checks all the boxes. Carried his team, great scorer, defender, passer, clutch time player, fourth quarter player. I mean, really, he did everything. But the one thing he didn't do, hadn't done yet, was of course, win a championship.